This book was so good that it made me forget I was on my period. I think I'm DNFing. Oh my god, why does it look like I'm naked? I really thought that he was like this old man because of the voice that the narrator gave him, but no, he's the love interest. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Read Em. My name is Emily and today I have the video that I'm the most excited about filming literally ever. So for today's video, I will be reading adult romance books for the first time. And I'm trying to think if there is any exception to this, and there might be if you like scour my Goodreads shelves, but in my memory, and for the most part, I've never really read adult romance books. And I know that adult romance comprises of a lot of different subgenres, and don't worry, I'm going to get to that. The way that I've decided to do this is that actually Chandler Ainsley posted a video recently called 6 Banner Romance Recommendations, and I'll definitely link that down below if you want to watch it. While I was watching that video, I was like, this is kind of the perfect opportunity to get into romance because it's so intimidating. There's so many different types of romance books, and everyone likes different kinds and different tropes, and everyone on TikTok is talking about romance books, and I want to be able to feel that many emotions about books. Like, I mean, I do, but I just feel like I'm missing out somewhere because I don't know where to start with romance. And so that is where Chandler came in. So she recommended 6 books. I chose 5 for this video. They were the ones I was most interested in, and also I don't have all the time in the world to be doing this. I think each one of them kind of represents a different genre, and I will kind of go into that as I read each of them. The 5 books that I've chosen from her video are You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson, Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews, Full Tilt by Emma Scott, and The Cardigans, Criminal Intentions by Cole McCade. Typically, I would consider myself someone who doesn't love romance in books and movies and TV shows. I just don't like anything super sappy. It kind of just disgusts me. So that is my only real concern going in. I am excited that most of these books are pretty short. They're all very different. Some of them are also kind of subgenres that I just enjoy in general, like thrillery or fantasy. And I'm just excited to see where this goes. I'm not sure exactly which book I'm going to pick first yet, but I will update you guys once I pick the first one and let you guys know what I'm thinking. I'm so excited for this video and I really hope you guys enjoy it, so stick around and enjoy. Okay, so I settled on the first book I'm going to read, and that will be Full Tilt by Emma Scott. I'm a little wary going into this one, but the reason that I'm choosing it first is because I found the audiobook on Hoopla and I've been in my room like all day. I just finished work, so I think I'm gonna go out for a walk and listen to that. I feel like this one might be one of the cheesier ones out of all of them, and I know it has something to do with the male character like having a heart transplant and like illness and hospitals, which is not really my favorite thing. I'm a little concerned it could get a little triggery and I might have to stop reading it for that reason, which would have nothing to do with the romance part of this video, but I am just warning you that that could happen. Hopefully it won't. It's pretty short, so I'll update you guys once I get a little ways into it. I'm about to go on a walk, so I'll take some aesthetic videos of that, and later I'm probably going to do laundry, so I'll have more time to listen to the audiobook as well.
Several days later.
Oh, what's this? What's this, you ask? What's this little, oh, you can't even see it. You want to see my band-aid? I know, I'm just cool like that. I got my flu vaccine, so my arm's gonna be really puffy in this video, but I'm gonna try to keep it out of frame because I respond badly to vaccines. But still get your vaccines, very important. I still get it even though my arm gets really giant. Today it's actually not as bad as it has been in the past because it's just the flu shot, but still, get vaccinated, okay? I'm watching. On top of my arm being swollen, I probably look a little bit disheveled, and that's because I had class today and then work today and then I had a dance audition, and now I look like this. I just got back, and by just got back I mean that it's been 2.5 hours and I was just laying in my bed, but I thought, you know what, I have to kind of film this clip, so I'm doing it anyway. And then I'm gonna shower. But I'm not being nice to you guys, and I didn't shower before filming this, so if you could smell through the screen, it would be probably unbearable. Speaking of unbearable, no, I'm kidding. No, that was extreme. But I do have an update on Full Tilt by Emma Scott. So it's been 2 more days, and I got to 68%. However, I think I think I'm DNFing. I'm sorry. I really feel bad. Like, I want to like things in this video. That's the whole reason that I like wanted to read romance books or like beginner ones, is because I want to like romance books like everyone else does. Like there's so many that people are like so excited about, and they're always like crying and laughing and freaking out about everything, and like I want to experience that. But this first one, it wasn't for me. I don't even know exactly why. Ultimately, my thoughts were that, you know, I did think that the characters were somewhat interesting. I liked the whole like glass blowing aspect that Jonah had, and I liked the recovery of Casey, and I think that they did like work well together, but it's just like, it's so predictable. And like, I know maybe that's the point of romance, like maybe it is, but like I knew every single thing that was gonna happen. Like I didn't even finish, but like I literally know the exact things that are gonna happen, and like I just didn't care about them being together. Like I kind of cared about them as characters, but not enough to like keep going, because it's like I know where this is going. It might have been because they had like literally just met, like they've only known each other for like a few weeks, which I guess is not like a super short amount of time, but like in the beginning it had only been 4 days. But at the same time, because Jonah's dying of like a heart thing, I can get why like it could be accelerated, like that makes sense to me. But I just still, I don't know, I wasn't convinced. And maybe it was like the writing, not that the writing was bad, the writing was actually like okay, but it's just very cheesy, which is like, if you're signing up for that and you know that you like that, then like, this is a great book. But like for me, it wasn't working, and I don't know why. Like honestly, if I finished, it probably would feel like 3 stars. Like nothing was wrong about it. I don't really tend to like continue and finish 3-star books, because it's just like, I just don't care. Like I'm just like, I don't have the time for this. I'd rather be reading things that like I want to be reading and give like 4 stars, you know? Well, I went back and rewatched the clip of Chandler talking about this book, and I have to agree with every single thing she said. Like I really think this is a me problem, not a this book problem. Like she said that this is a sweet romance, which again, I completely agree with. I'm glad that she kind of took that into account when making the video, because I think that is something that a lot of people trying to get into being a romance don't want. It's like they don't want a super like hot romance, like for the first thing that they're reading, like they just don't want that. They want sweet romance. So like I understand why this is a good recommendation for that. But at the same time, I mean, I don't want a more extreme romance, like I don't want that, but I also just didn't like this. Like I don't know, maybe because it was so sweet, it was just cheesy. I don't know if that was the problem or not. And she also said that it would be good for fans of those more sad YA contemporary books like The Fault in Our Stars, which I do love a good John Green. The Fault in Our Stars is not my fave. I mean, I probably have like a 4-star rating on Goodreads or something, but I read that in like 7th grade. Okay, it's been like, I don't even know how many years. Sick lit is not my exact favorite thing, because it kind of freaks me out. But this one did not, at least I didn't keep reading, so like I don't know. But it didn't ever do anything that like scared me or anything. Chandler also did say that she likes how this author makes each character like pretty unique and have like unique interests, and does some research into their interests, which I agree with. Again, like I said, I like the glass blowing. I think Nevada's an interesting, oh my god, stop. Not with Nevada. Casey is an interesting character. As a heroine, like, I mean, I haven't read very many romances, as obvious, but like, I didn't think she was super cookie cutter at all. Like, she was interesting, and I liked that she was, like, well, I didn't like that she was struggling, but it was interesting that she was struggling with alcoholism. Also, this is very off topic, but I was listening to the audiobook of this, and the audiobook's like fine, but there's 2 narrators. There's a girl and the boy, and Jonah's narrator is like so dramatic. Like, I got used to it as I kept going, but there was this one scene where I actually started laughing out loud just in my room. Like I was just like listening to it while like walking around or like laying down. I don't remember what I was doing, but I was just doing nothing, and I'm just listening to it. And so they're in a bar, and Casey, I almost said Nevada again. Casey is very drunk, and this guy starts like hitting on her and stuff, and Jonah just goes up to him, pushes him to the ground, and he like falls down just straight onto his butt. Just like, I'm just imagining like toddlers fighting here. And then Jonah puts his arm around Casey. It was like his arm was around Casey, and he was like, back off, get away from her, keep your hands off of her, do not touch her. And I was like, stop, this is the funniest thing I've ever read in my entire life. Like, what is going on? Like, I cannot. I was imagining him with his arm around her like a vampire, and like just everyone's like, it's like those things in like the Tumblr posts, like, and everyone clapped. That's what this was. That's what this scene was. Like, I was like, stop. So I think maybe that was also part of it. Like, a lot of it was like so dramatic, not like dramatic, but like just cheesy, so over the top and dramatic. I mean, even the whole premise is so dramatic. I just know it wasn't my thing. It really wasn't. But I do not think Full Tilt is a bad book or a bad romance book. Like, it's probably a good romance book. Like, literally every single of my friends on Goodreads gave it 5 stars or 4 stars, like most of them 5. And I know that Steph Borer or I don't know how to say your name. I'm so sorry, Steph. If you're watching this, I love your channel, even though I don't read romance. Like, you're just amazing. But I know I also saw that she like loves this book too. So like I know romance readers of this book. We're trying to find out if I'm a romance reader. Clearly I'm not that kind of romance reader, but you know, that's what this whole experiment is for. But I will say, if you are a romance reader, you'll probably like that book. Like, nothing's wrong with it. I just didn't hold my attention. But I do have hope for a lot of the other ones. So the next one that I'm starting is Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews, which actually has a main character named Nevada. I didn't make that up. There is actually apparently a character named Nevada, and that's where that came from. So this one I'm pretty excited about, because this one is actually a fantasy, and I looked a little bit at the synopsis, and it said something about a detective too. So it's like, okay, there's like an actual plot that could be getting me through this. So I'm excited about that. I am a little nervous because I think a common theme with some of these might be that there's just an initial attraction between the people, which I think that might be what I don't buy into. Like, maybe that was my issue with the first one too, is that like I don't like just see someone and then I'm like, yes, that like I'm attracted to that person. Like, that just did not happen to me. Like, I'm sorry, like you have to like know that person for like years, okay? So like I don't buy into these things. I'm just like, this is a random man. So maybe that's like part of my issue. But Chandler also did say, I'm pretty sure for this one, that this is like a very slow burn romance like throughout the whole series. So I'm hoping that, you know, she'll like know him for a while before like things actually happen. So like maybe that will help. And maybe the fantasy and like detective stuff will help me along. I will say though, I did look at Chandler's Goodreads review for this, and she was like, don't use the audiobook because like the narrator was like bad or something for the male. But it's the only thing I have, and like I might get the ebook because it's only $4.99, but also like if I'm not hating the audiobook, I'm not gonna pay the $4.99 if I don't have to, because I got the audiobook from my library, so it's like, and they don't have the ebook in my library, which is unfortunate. But I'm gonna try the audiobook. I've read the prologue so far, and it was fine. It was interesting. It was like they're talking about murders and stuff, and I'm like, okay, there's stuff happening here. I'm starting chapter 1, and it was also interesting about a private investigator is also in chapter 1, so like there's a lot to work with here. I'm excited. I think it's more promising than Full Tilt. So over the next few days, I'm gonna continue reading Burn For Me. I'm excited about it. I really, really want to like it, but I'm trying to keep my expectations like middle of the road. Like, calm down, Emily, because clearly you need to manage your expectations. Oh my god, why does it look like I'm naked? Sorry, I'm not naked, I'm wearing a shirt. So I will continue to update you guys as I read. I'm hoping that I will come to like this one more than the first, but I will let you guys know whenever I continue. So it's been like a week now, and I know I said that I was gonna update you guys at 50%, but it's been a week and I read the whole thing. So I'm just gonna tell you guys my thoughts now. I finished Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews. I was crazy busy, so I just didn't have time to update, but I read the whole thing. So that's the first good sign, is that I finished this book, you guys. So I think we're on an upward trajectory, and I'm having better hopes for this video now. I have to say that I pretty much enjoyed it. I'd probably give it 3 stars. Like, it's nothing super memorable to me, and I think that it was a little bit long for my liking, but I thought it was really funny and entertaining, and I had a good time reading. I will say that I agree with Chandler when she said to not really listen to the audiobook because the love interest's voice is like kind of weird. The audiobook was the only option I really had, so I did listen to it, but I definitely did think that his voice was weird. Like, I thought, let me tell you what I thought. So the book is basically about a woman who's a private investigator, and she is sent by her like parent company to capture this guy named Adam, who is like an arsonist and is like on the loose. And what I thought was going to happen is that Adam would be the love interest, because they had like these few meetings where they would like have some banter and it seemed like enemies to lovers, whatever. But no, she actually has to team up with this guy named Mad Rogan. Yes, his name is Mad Rogan. She has to work with him to find Adam. And Mad Rogan, I thought was an old man, like not old, but like 50s, 60s, and our main character is like 25. And I really thought that he was like this old man because of the voice that the narrator gave him. But no, he's the love interest, and I don't think he's definitely not supposed to be. He's supposed to also be like 25, I think, but like I just did not comprehend that. So that threw me off a little bit. And I don't know if it's just because of the voice or not, but I will say that the parts that I liked about this book was not really the romance itself. Like, I was like, the romance is kind of funny. Like, it reminded me of a TV show when they would get into like funny scenarios, like trapped underneath something and they're like stuck together or like whatever, that kind of thing. Like, it was funny TV show kind of stuff, but I never felt like an actual like rooting for them romance. It was just like, okay, this is funny. But I did enjoy the plot. Like, it was interesting. It's an urban fantasy. There's interesting magic, interesting like familial politics stuff. Nevada, the main character, is pretty interesting and fun. I liked her. And overall, it was just easy to read and I had a good time. But I still have yet to find a romance where I actually care about the romance part. I'm hoping that the slower burn ones will work better for me because I mean, this book is like very over the top. And again, this is a book where they just met each other and they're literally only attracted by like looks. I don't really feel it when that's the case. I'm hoping that either Edenbrooke or You Deserve Each Other, which are coming up later in this video, will work better for that. They're not longer books, but they're like longer, I'm assuming, in the parts where it's actually between the two characters, because this book was like pretty long. It was like probably the longest one, like 400 something pages, but it was also a fantasy book. So there was like a lot of chapters about like, you know, the fantasy stuff and whatever. I feel like those books might work better on the slower burn of the relationship, maybe. I also don't know. I think the next one I'm gonna read is The Cardigans, the first book in the Criminal Intentions series. I'm actually reading a different book right now, but once I'm done with that, I'm gonna read this one. And I think I'm gonna choose this one just because Burn for Me was a long book for this video, and I kind of want to read this one because it's really short. And I know it apparently has like some suspense stuff and like crime stuff, so like I feel like it'll be a bit faster paced, and maybe then I'll speed through that one. I'll be ready for the two that are potentially a bit longer after. I think we're definitely like on an upward trajectory. Like the first book was a DNF. I mean, if I finished it, it probably would have been like 2.5 or 3, but like nothing horrible, but like, you know, it was okay. Then this book, like a solid 3. Like I enjoyed my time reading it. Then the next book I'm gonna read, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this one. Again, I feel like, you know what, I think this one I'm probably gonna like, but again, probably not care about the romance that much. That's just like what my intuition is telling me. But so far, I'm really enjoying the process of doing this video, and I'll probably do more in the future of trying more of this genre and other genres because I like trying to figure out what I like. That's kind of all I have for my update on Burn for Me. I'm just glad that I actually finished and somewhat enjoyed this one. So I'll update you guys once I get started or finish, who knows what'll happen, with the next one. See you soon. It's been a little while since I last talked to you guys, but I do have some good news. First thing I want to say is that I finished The Cardigans, Criminal Intentions, book 1, and I'm happy to report that I gave it 4 stars. So we're continuing the upward trends of this video, and I'm excited to see if we're gonna fully realize to the 5 stars at some point, because so far we had a DNF, which like would have been like 2 stars if I had finished it, a 3 star, and now a 4 star, and we got 2 books left. So like, things are looking good. They're looking possible. So I'm excited to see what happens. So first I want to talk about Criminal Intentions and then give you a little recap of like my thoughts about the different types of romance books I've been reading so far. So Criminal Intentions, well, I did give it 4 stars and really enjoyed it. I do have to admit that I think the reason that I enjoyed it so much is that it's really not a romance book. Like, it's just kind of fully a like police procedural. Like, it really was like a Criminal Minds episode, which is like one of my favorite shows. It was super short, really easy to read. Like, I read it in like 4 or 5 days, like with school and all my dance rehearsals and stuff, and I would just like needed to pick it up all the time. There is like a tiny inkling of romance between the 2 cops, Malcolm Kalaji, I think his name is, and Sung Jae-yoon. They're partners on a case, and they're kind of like don't like each other because Sung Jae is very like proper and Malcolm is very like energetic and like wants to like do his own thing. Even though Sung Jae is new, he's actually the senior to Malcolm in the like police squad, so there's an interesting dynamic there, and there's like gonna be a romance with them, and like there's like tiny inklings of stuff that happens between them in this book, but like I definitely would not call it like a romance book, but it's going to be a romance series. I do think that I'm going to continue, if not for the romance, definitely just for the like Criminal Minds aspect, because I really enjoy that kind of thing, and I finished all 15 seasons of Criminal Minds, so I've been kind of missing having that like little episodic crime show to watch, so maybe this book series will be the perfect little filler for that. Now I want to talk about my thoughts just like overall so far. So I think what I'm discovering is that I do not think that new adult is for me. I know that in this video I'm only reading like 1 book from each of these like tiny subgenres, so like it can't mean everything, but like there have been times in the past where I've like tried to read something in these veins, or maybe just books that I've read have been compared to things in that genre, and those aspects of the book are the things I didn't like. So that's how I'm trying to like form my opinions on this, is that I don't think that I like new adult books. Like, I just don't like that tone. I don't know how to describe the tone. I'm sure there are some new adult books that aren't in this tone, but I just think that the vast majority of the ones that are popular are, and like the reason that people like new adult is like for this tone, but I just don't like it. So I think Full Tilt was like in that tone. I know a few like weeks ago I tried to start at the beginning, like got a sample of The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which is like a super popular one, and I hated that, like hated it. So like I just don't think that the new adult tone is working for me. In regards to romance, I think that is definitely not in my wheelhouse. Then we got to the fantasy romance, which was Burn for Me, where I thought it was fun, but I think what happens for me with fantasy romances is that I'm always way more interested in the fantasy stuff, and the book is like a romance with fantasy, but I like fantasy with romance. For example, I really love the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I still haven't read the last book, but it doesn't matter. I enjoy the series overall. However, I read the first 2 books of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series and really did not like them. Like, first one I gave like 3 stars, second one I think I gave 3.5. Like, I don't know, I just don't like those books, but I love Throne of Glass. So I know it's not Sarah J. Maas's writing, but I think the problem is that Throne of Glass is a fantasy series, an epic fantasy series with romance subplots. But A Court of Thorns and Roses, I was expecting to be similar, is really a romance series with fantasy subplots, and that's where I don't like it. So those series though, I always give them like 3 stars because I don't hate it, because I like the fantasy stuff usually if the author is, you know, decent at writing fantasy, but I just don't care about the romance, so then I get bored for half the book and then I give it 3 stars. So I think that's what happened with Burn for Me. I was really excited about like all the plot stuff, like the different families, the like PI stuff, that was all very interesting, but then half of it was like bogged down by like this weird, by like the relationship stuff, which I didn't care about that much. For me, new adult, fantasy romance, not gonna be the romance books for me. However, criminal stuff and thrillers, romance, with like minimal romance, could be for me. That's what we're learning here. Now, the reason I wanted to bring up this conversation at this moment is because I've actually started the 4th book for this TBR, which is the second to last one, and that is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. Now, I am only 55 pages in, which is actually kind of a lot, considering I started it yesterday, 2 days ago, and I am kind of obsessed. I'm only 50 pages in. However, I'm loving this. I had a feeling that the like subgenre of just like general, traditional like romance books would be the one that I would like the most probably. I'm interested to see what I think about historical. We're gonna see about that later, but I haven't started that book yet, so I don't know. But this book is like, I kind of had hope for it, but I think I'm gonna really like it, at least like so far. Now, this book specifically, I think I really like because of how cynical our main character is and how solid the setup is. So basically, the plot of this book, like the setup, is that our main character Naomi fell in love with Nicholas like a year or a little bit more than a year ago. Now they're engaged and they hate each other. Like, they can't stand each other anymore. But we're in the perspective of Naomi. I'm not sure if it'll be dual perspective eventually, but right now I've only read from Naomi. And the setup is just so effective because every single thing that she deals with in this marriage is infuriating. Nicholas's mother, like, so her mother-in-law, so annoying, and like everything that happens when he like joins her friend group sometimes, even though he doesn't know any of them and he's just doing it to like spite her, he's like clashing with everyone. It's just stop. It's just so infuriating, but that's like exactly what the author is intending to do, because you are rooting for Naomi to then be able to spite Nicholas back. And now you're asking me, how is that a romance? Like, what is happening there? So basically, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is that Naomi wants to get out of this marriage, and so does Nicholas, but they both don't want to be the one to leave, because then they'll be looked down upon by like their social media people and like their families and stuff. So they're both like warring with each other, trying to be the most annoying humanly possible so that they can like get the house in the divorce, like whatever. Like, one of them will have to just like leave and one of them will have to stay, and they're trying to be so annoying to each other, and then eventually they're gonna like fall in love, whatever, again, like fall in love. I'm still in the hating phase. I just love it because it's not like super gooey and gross. Like, do not enjoy that. Like, that's what Full Tilt was giving me. This is giving me the complete opposite. Very much enjoying. I'm also just relating to some of the fears of the main character, not necessarily like in a relationship way, but like just fears when you like are too far deep into something and you're like, how did I get here and can I still get out? I just feel like that's happened to me in just like life things, and I just really like her. And also, this book is laugh out loud funny. Like, I am laughing at so many of the jokes. There's so many really specific jokes too, and just like the tone and the voice is like perfectly nailed. Like, the contrast between the prologue and chapter 1 is hilarious. The whole thing, I'm like chuckling to myself out loud reading it, and it's kind of addictive, even though it's not like plot driven. Like, the kind of romances I like are when they're like addictive, even though you can't explain why. Like Becky Vitale's books, I mean, they're not really romances, but like that kind of contemporary is like, that's how you know you like it. So like, I'm really hoping that we're still on the upward trajectory, and this has the potential of being a 5-star. It has potential. I'm only on page 55, so like, we don't know yet, but like, I have faith in this one and I'm very excited about it. This author, like Sarah Hogel, definitely gonna read her other book, Twice Shy, because I've heard that one's like even better. I will update you guys once I get farther into this book or finish this book. I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna read it really fast, so I'll let you know when I do. Guys, I'm back. It's only been like 3 or 4 days. This book was so good that it made me forget I was on my period. And that is such a feat. I was in pain from cramps and a flared herniated disc at the same time. And yet, once I started reading this book, it was just gone. It was cured until the moment I put it back down. And I just think that I need to read every single thing that Sarah Hogle ever writes. And I am literally holding my Kindle just because I want to be able to hold it in my hands. Like, I need a physical copy so badly. Obviously, I love this book. I'm giving it 5 stars. It's probably my second favorite book of the entire year, only beat out by John Green, which is like untouchable. This book is my new personality. I'm obsessed with it. I need everyone I know to read it. That one person I keep telling to read it better be reading it because I want to talk about it so badly. I have so much to say about it, so I think I'm going to start by just talking about the things that Chandler recommended it for and saying why I think those were accurate or not, and then I will talk about my actual overall feelings, like in general. I'm gonna put this down now. So I went back and rewatched the portion of the video where Chandler recommended this book, and there were 2 main things that she said as to why she thought this one would be good for beginner romance readers. Now, obviously, I do think the recommendation was great, because look where I am now. But the 2 main things she said were, firstly, that it was kind of written in a non-romance style. Like, the writing to her read like a thriller, which I don't really think I felt like that. Oh my god, there's a bug. There's a bug, and it's getting really close to the hole in my screen. Should I knock on the window? Okay, it went away. We're fine. So yeah, so she said it read kind of like a thriller to her, which I don't think I got. Like, I definitely thought it was addictive, but I think I've thought that about a lot of contemporary books, so like I don't think it was like thrillery to me. Like, I don't really know about that. But what she did say is that it reads differently than a lot of other romance books, and while clearly I do not have the experience to really know that, I do agree that it read differently from what I assume the romance style to be, which is more of like the Full Tilt style from earlier in this video, which is like kind of cheesy and like sappy, which I'm sure that not all romances are like this, but I feel like that might be the tone that she's like talking about with like romance writing. This one, the reason I think I loved her, one of the reasons, is that it's written like very cynically, very like sarcastic, very dramatic but self-aware. Like, the main character, it's only one perspective. It's from the female main character Naomi's perspective, and the way that her thoughts like flow is hilarious. Like, she just is very, very, very dramatic and annoyed with everyone, but like kind of self-aware about that at the same exact time. So I think that this is like kind of a unique voice, because usually the main character is more like sappy and sentimental. I'm guessing, I'm not really sure, but I definitely would not like that and much preferred this voice instead. And that's not to say that like it wasn't a romance book. Like, clearly eventually things get more serious, but it doesn't mean that she suddenly becomes like really sappy, happy, like, to me, gross like voice. And so that kind of made me wonder also, back to my conversation earlier about like which type of romance I like. This one was definitely like rom-com, but I'm kind of wondering now like how much this voice is actually different from like other traditional rom-coms books, because Chandler was saying like this one was so different, and I thought like oh, maybe this is the type of book I like as opposed to like the new adult style. But now I'm like kind of wondering like, oh, maybe a lot of other rom-coms are also kind of written in that writing style. Not really sure, but I like want to try more because this one was just so good, especially by this author. And then the other thing that Chandler said was good for beginners in this one is that it wasn't really too explicit, which I definitely agree with. She said she didn't like fully remember, but like, yeah, I could attest to that. There's like probably like one actual sex scene, but it's still like pretty fade to black, like it's not like horrifying. So now I want to get back, I'm gonna pick this up again because I need to just like hold it in my hands, back into the reasons that I love this book. Obviously I've already touched upon a lot of them in what I was just talking about, but there's just a lot to cover here. So first I'll go back to talking about the voice because we already kind of introduced that. So the voice in this is really hilarious. Like, I cannot do it justice by describing it. You just need to read it. Like, you need to read the entire thing to like understand what I'm talking about. I kind of knew like from the beginning that I was going to like her voice. She thinks in a way that is both similar to me and just completely ridiculous, and it's so funny. Like, this book, I was laughing out loud at the way that humor is incorporated. It's both incorporated in like literal scenes, like the things that they're doing is really funny, but then also just the way that this main character thinks is absolutely hilarious. Like, the observations she makes, the way that she'll like just like stumble to conclusions, but not like actual real life conclusions, just things about herself. Like, she'll be like, I have no notifications, so that means that nobody loves me and I'm a failure. But it's also a joke. Like, she's not like actually genuinely thinking like that. It's not like annoying. It's like, it's just funny. I'm also now wondering, because the main trope in this book is lovers to enemies to lovers. So they were once very much in love. They got engaged after like a year or less, and now they're only 3 months away from their wedding, and they've been together for like almost 2 years. But now the problem is they kind of hate each other. It's not that they never loved each other or that they don't still love each other, it's just that they don't know how to communicate literally anything, and instead of like working together on things that are bothering them, they take it out on each other, and it's just really bad. The author just does an expert job at like getting you to be angry in the beginning, like Naomi is, and then you slowly start to realize like the flaws that she is bringing to the table and that he is bringing to the table, and then you start to like kind of unravel that, and they start to realize like working together might actually be better when they're facing things that are annoying them, blah 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 blah, and then it ends up great. And it's just like the way that it all unfolds is so perfect. Like I don't think I've ever actually read like enemies to lovers. Like I know this one's a little different because they didn't always hate each other, but like it's basically enemies to lovers. I don't think I've ever read enemies to lovers like in real life. Like I've only really read fantasy ones, and even in those types, like it's not that convincing. Like maybe just because it's fantasy, like the enemies is just like, okay, they're trying to kill each other, but it's like, I don't know. I don't hate it, obviously. I just am not like, this is like appealing to me. Like whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh my god, I want to read that book now. It's very dramatic in fantasy because it's always like assassins. But then how did they actually end up loving each other then? I don't know. The Cruel Prince kind of does it well. I will mention that. But like other books, it's just like, okay, like you just wanted to do this trope. This book though, it is so incredibly believable. Like you feel the same way that the characters do. Like you also hate each other in the beginning, and then you also start to love each other. So I think that's why it's so perfect. It's not like you're watching characters hate each other and then love each other. It's like you are also hating the other person and the character you're reading from, and then you are also loving them together. It's just so well done. I also just think like the book has such good conversations about like communication, about like compromise, and like thinking about someone else's feelings, like that kind of thing. Like that sounds so serious and like gross, but the way it's presented is not like that. So I really liked it. And the other thing that I think made me like this book so much is that since they were falling back in love, they already knew each other. Like I'm never convinced by books where the characters have known each other for a few days or weeks and they're like so invested already. I'm like, okay, but like why do you care this much? Like you don't even know them. That's why this one worked so much better, because usually in like romance books there's like a big giant show of attraction. He like rents out an entire concert hall, gets Harry Styles to be there for her, and it's like, okay, that's great, but like I don't know, that doesn't do anything for me. But this one, it's like they slowly start to just do little favors for each other, like leave a little note in their lunchbox, or like learn the other person's favorite video game, like things that are actually real life things that like best friends would do. And that was just so much better to me than like giant weird displays of affection for someone that you met 2 weeks ago, and I don't even understand why you would be that upset if you broke up. Like this is different. This is like literally their whole families are on the line. It's so good. I could talk about it forever, and I need my friends to read this book because I want to hear your reactions to like literally every single scene, because it's just so funny. Like I highlighted, like if I actually was highlighting everything I wanted to highlight, it would be the entire book. Like I need a physical copy of this book now, and I need to reread it literally all the time and just highlight the entire thing and underline every single page of it and just die because it's so good. It's so good, and I need to read more from this author and more books like this. So I don't know exactly what about this was perfect. I think the main things that could be things that I will look for in other romance books are a more cynical voice that's not really sappy and gross, people falling back in love who are already in love, or at least already like best friends or something before. Like they have to have already known each other for a long time. I just don't get on board with like the first meeting situations that much. I mean, going along with that, it's similar, is the more mundane stuff that they're doing, not like weird, crazy, giant things, like just normal everyday life. So now that I've said all of that, I'm ready to move on to my next book, which I'm a little scared to do, I will admit, because this book was so good and it continued the upward trajectory, which I do not think will be continuing. Like I don't think that the next book's going to top it, but I do think it has a chance of being like 4 stars. At least, like, I hope. I don't really know. The next one is Eden Brook, and it is a historical romance, which is a bit different from the rest. I am a bit nervous because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be definitely like very like first meeting situation, but I feel like with historical romances, I can suspend my disbelief a little bit more because it's like, I don't know, it feels like more fitting for the time period. I do typically like the female main characters in like these historical setting type books. Like, I mean, I usually read more like early 1900s, but like that kind of era. I like the voice usually, so at least I'll be entertained hopefully by the main character, even if I don't really care for the romance part that much. But it's also really short, it's under 300 pages. I have hopes. I am a little worried also that I will start confusing it with the books that I have to read for my Victorian literature class. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think it will. I will update you guys once I get halfway or finish Edenbrook. I'm not expecting it to be my favorite one in the video because I think we've already passed that point, but I am hoping that it's not too tainted by any sort of book hangover from You Deserve Each Other, which was just, it was so good. I just really want to buy a copy like right now. So yes, I will update you guys once I am far enough, and I have an update. I'm not sure how visible this is, but I'm wearing pajamas and have a giant water stain on my shirt, but I can explain. So when I went to dinner, came back and made an executive decision that I wanted to finish reading tonight. What else are you gonna do when you're reading a fun historical romance book other than eat an entire bag of chocolate covered pretzels in one sitting, which then causes your stomach to hurt, which means that you put on pajamas because you can't wear tight leggings anymore. And then when you get up to the bathroom, you realize that there's a giant stain of chocolate melted all over your shirt. So then you try to wash it off, and then you remember they read from a video, and now you have a giant stains on your shirt. That is where I'm at right now. However, I had to talk to you guys because I finished the book and I have thoughts. So I read this. Yes, I have 2 Kindles. This is a Kindle Fire. The other one's a Kindle Paperwhite. So this one I use for Hoopla, which is a different app that they don't offer on Kindle. So whatever. That's... I have just broken my finger because I caught my mic as it was falling. I'm gonna scoot back a little bit. I'm gonna stop talking about the Kindle now. I think that slightly cursed me. Anyway, so I just finished Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson, I think is her name. You can see it on the cover over here. I'm pleased to say that I also really enjoyed this book. I'm probably gonna give it 4 stars. It could be like 3.5, but I think I'm gonna give it 4. This book did kind of fall into my expectations in the sense that it definitely like progresses quite quickly. It's very much like we are in love and it's been only a few weeks, but I feel like, as I was saying in an earlier clip, like it kind of works for me in a historical setting because that's kind of like how it was back then more. I mean, not that I actually know, but based on other historical books I've read, like ones that are actually written at that time too, it seems more normal for things to be kind of urgent because you had to like marry at certain points and for certain reasons. So like if you could actually fall in love with someone, I feel like you could be persuaded to a bit easier back then than you could now. I think though what did surprise me about this book was like the exciting or like action-y elements and the deeper emotional elements. I was expecting something pretty fluffy, and it is pretty fluffy. Like if you're looking for that, this is definitely fluffy. But there are like exciting action moments which I was not expecting, especially in the very beginning and the very end. Like that was wild. There's one scene specifically that I will talk about in a little bit, and I'll warn you guys because it could be a little spoilery, but I'm not talking about that yet. And then the other thing I was surprised about was the emotional stuff. So basically this book follows Marianne, and she has a twin sister named Cecily, and they're currently not living together after the death of their mother. They were kind of just sent to live with different relatives, but now they're both being invited to Edenbrook, which is an estate owned by one of their mother's old friends. And Cecily, the main character's twin sister, really wants to marry like the leader of the house, the oldest brother. And when Marianne first gets there, she meets Sir Philip, who she begins to fall in love with. However, she kind of comes to realize that Sir Philip might be the person that Cecily should end up with instead. It was just really interesting to read about how much she felt like she was below her sister, even though they're twins. Cecily was kind of always seen as the older one, the more ladylike one, prettier one, the one who just had better manners and was better suited to find a suitor. And Marianne was really hard on herself and just like let Cecily walk all over her all the time, and other people like walk all over her too, because she was just like being so nice and was like, oh, well, I don't deserve this, or he's just playing me, he's known as a flirt, of course he should go with my sister who already claimed him, like all that kind of stuff. And that stuff was actually like quite sad. Also the fact that their mother had just died and their father had basically not abandoned them, but just like gone off on his own and was kind of selfish. So she was also dealing with those emotions. So it was actually kind of more deep than I was expecting it to be, although it's still like pretty light and fun. So don't worry with too much if you're like thinking that it sounds like really sad all of a sudden. It's definitely not like sad or anything. I mean, there's like a few scenes maybe, but overall it's really like fun. I especially loved the first section of this book where it's just kind of Marianne like in Edenbrook doing like fun countryside activities, like walking around in fields and painting, and like it sounds like it would be boring, but it's fun to read about, especially when the book is so short. It's just like a fun little escape. And I will say that I actually did like the romance in this one. Like I didn't just like this book because of the other stuff like I did with some of the other books. This one I actually really liked Sir Philip and Marianne together. I think they were really good together. It's perfect like slow, even though it's like relatively fast, their getting together still takes kind of a while, like in terms of like page length. I liked how Philip is so forward and Marianne is so annoyed, and that they kind of don't see that the other person likes them for so long, because I don't know, it's just more satisfying, even though it is like annoying. But since you know that this is happening, like as the reader, it's still fun because you're like, oh my god, just see it already, and like everyone around them also sees it already. Like it's really funny. Okay, so now I'm gonna just talk about one scene specifically that I was actually kind of dying. So I'm going to put some like picture on the screen or something, or put a timestamp of when you can skip to if you don't want to hear spoilers. It's not like really a spoiler because this is not really a plot driven book, but it's just a scene that happens later in the book, and if you don't want to hear about it, then skip ahead. So basically, towards the end of this book, Mr. Beaufort, who is a guy who just liked Marianne throughout a lot of the book, finally proposes to her, and when she rejects him, he later on decides to kidnap her. So we're going straight into a kidnapping plot right now, which I was just not expecting at all. And so she was abducted and brought to this house in Dover where he was like getting all drunk and was like kissing her, and she was like, get off of me, blah blah blah. And she had no way to escape, whatever. Somehow, they explain all of this later, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, her father and Sir Philip appear to save her. And apparently, back in this day and age, when a girl was like sullied by another suitor or man, even if it was non-consensual, that man had to then duel with any other man who was interested in her. So Philip and Mr. Beaufort have to duel, and you don't really see the duel, you just see the very ending when Philip has him like pin dance the wall sword to his throat, and he's like, what did you do to her? He basically says like, well, if I tell you, like, you won't like her anymore. Like, are you still gonna like her if I tell you what I did to her? And he's like, no matter what you say, like, I will still want her. I just want to know how badly I need to hurt you. And I was like, stop. That is kind of an iconic line and scene right there. Like normally the like fighting thing, I'm like, what is happening at this point? But the historical thing makes it better, because like when this kind of thing happened in Full Tilt with like a fight, I was like, this is no, like this is the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life. But in the historical setting, it's kind of funny because it's supposed to be like over the top and like dramatic, because that's like how those books are. So I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And I just liked swords compared to like bar fighting. Like it's just a different playing field, okay? Oh, and my last thing I want to say about Edenbrook was that this historical romance, I think, is definitely like a good gateway historical romance like into the genre, because one, it's very short, easy to understand. I mean, I haven't really read very many besides like Victorian books like for my classes, which sometimes have like that kind of element, but I feel like a lot of historical romance books, people will read them like for smut, which is like not what I'm trying to do and not what a lot of people are trying to do. So this one's definitely a good one if you're like looking for just like a fun one just about romantic relationship and not like anything else more than that. So overall, I really enjoyed Edenbrook, and that concludes all of my reads for this video, which I think was pretty successful. I think I'm going to try to rate the books. Maybe I'll like put something on the screen, but I'm going to rate them in my order of how much I liked them. So at the bottom, we have Full Tilt, because I DNF'd that. I mean, if I finished it, I probably would have given it like 2.5 stars. Then my second to last one was Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews. This was the fantasy romance, which I actually enjoyed. However, this is definitely the one where I liked the book, but I didn't really care about the romance. Then we have, I think, Edenbrook, which I really liked. So these top three are like all ones I would actually like potentially read again or continue on if it's like a series. And then my second favorite book I think would be Criminal Intentions, although I will have to give a caveat that this book was mostly just a police procedural. And my favorite one, of course, was You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hochul, which is like my favorite thing in the entire world, and I need a physical copy of that book immediately. Also, I've told every single one of my friends to read it, and 2 of them have agreed. However, they have not done it yet. So I just need a place to discuss it and see other people's reactions as they're reading it. Like, I want someone to text me live updates, because I was highlighting and writing little notes in my Kindle as if they were live updates, and I'm obsessed. This book is like what is making me definitely want to continue reading romance. If I had just read the other 4, I'd be like, okay, like I can enjoy them, but I'm not seeking them out. However, I am seeking out books that do what You Deserve Each Other did for me. So like, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means rom-coms. I don't know if that means just Sarah Hochul. I don't know what that means, and I do want to know. So I think I'm gonna have to do another experiment like this one day, but not at this very moment, because I have read so much romance recently and I'm so new to it that I am a little burnt out from it. However, I would really appreciate your recommendations down below. Keep in mind that You Deserve Each Other was my favorite out of them, so maybe make recommendations that are sort of like that. And also, I really do not like books that are like heavy in sex scenes. I just don't want that. So if it has like 1 or 2, it's fine, but like just keep that in mind for recommendations, because I'm not going to want to read it if it has a lot. So with that, I think this video has finally come to a close. It's been a great like few weeks, I think, filming this, and I actually had a really good time. I want to thank Chandler again for making that beginner romance video, because I have always wanted to have a place to start and just never really known where to do it. So I just need to thank you for that, and your great recommendations. Honestly, all of them were so spot on. Like, not all of them were ones I loved, but I feel like the reasons you recommended them were just like so accurate, and I'm just really excited to continue learning my tastes more. And if you have any more recommendations, then I definitely want to know, because I feel like you know way better than I do about literally all of this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sure this video is very long, so if you stuck around to the end, like, you're a trooper. I love you, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.